Thank you, Dr. Sombori. Dear professors, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Advanced contractual designs for resilient and cost-effective armament procurement from view of EU, European Armed Forces. It's a topic which is, I think, very important for the whole topic, for the holistic topic of our conference, fortifying European defense. I will take the introduction to me very shortly. I'm a specialized lawyer. I'm a long-term lecturer at, among others, the Vienna Economic University, a PhD here in Miskolc, grateful, my alma mater, and a little bit military background, Lieutenant Colonel of Reserve in Federal Armed Forces of Germany. At first, light infantry, later supply and CIMIC, and I'm a member of the Science Commission of Austrian MOD. So, I'm a member of several associations in military branch, and now exactly to my topic. Let me begin with one remark. A contract for procurement, for sourcing military armament is a long-term contract, and it is a contract. That means we have, and now the contractual advising and contractual drafting lawyer is speaking to you. The contract has to be optimized. Optimized in view of both partners, but every partner has to optimize in view of his core goals. I'm coming to the core goals of an army in view of the natural goals of an army, of all European armies. And the heading of my lecture is a little bit wrong. It is not only EU European countries and armies, it's universal, because American army, British army, other armies always have the same goals. You will see. Okay, now let's move to resilient solutions. What is resilience? Everybody knows, but I think it's a little bit necessary to go to a systematic view. Resilience is the adaptiveness, assertiveness of a system, of a man, of a contract, even of a social system to react to risks and dangers. And we have to defer the known risks we have to consider now. As European Union does not in many problem areas. I only tell you migration. This is not solved by European Union, but it's not my topic. But in minimum, main point 2 is the future view. Unknown risks. What about unknown risks? Do we know what will arise as a problem in 10 years? Perhaps we can imagine some developments. But do we know it? No. So real resilience, actual resilience, must have the capability to find solutions for new arising risks. Think to the film Independence Day. Nobody knew what would happen on 4th of July in the film. Okay, unknown future adaptiveness is the second point. What is now the transition to contractual law, to contractual drafting? Let's look at a short definition of contractual resilience, even especially to armaments and military logistics procurement. I think it's the ability of a contractual system for that to ensure the unconditional availability of military equipment and to achieve for the future necessary and possible modifications, adaptations. We must have the ability to change. Nothing is as sure as change. Panterai, the Greek word, you know. So, now a disclaimer. And I'm glad that I have this disclaimer. I don't tell you nothing about European and national procurement law. I don't know anything about that. I'm contractual specialist and not a procurement lawyer. Let's have a look at the types of sourcing armor and sourcing supply. Of course, the main and mostly existing contractual form is the purchase contract, a sales agreement. We buy a tank, we buy ammunition, we buy. The second possibility, arising more and more often, is the leasing or comparable solution. We use cars. We use, for example, Hungarian Air Force. We use Saab planes, Saab Hunter planes and attack planes on a leasing contract with Sweden. We use it. We don't have it. We don't possess it. But these possibilities, these possible solutions for sourcing are not so different as it seems in the first moment. Yes, we are, in the first one, we are entitled as the owner and we gave the price, but indeed, actually, the contracts are similar in one decisive point. In both sourcing types, we have a long-term contract. We must have a long-term contract, and the view of procurement authorities must always be the life cycle of that what we buy here. I give you some examples, and you know, a picture tells you more than 1,000 words. So now to the ladies especially who did not serve, there are some weapons. Please don't be threatened. It is not, and the gentleman perhaps could help the ladies if they are in fear or whatever. I show you some armors. But why do I show you that? We have to, in inventing or in creating a philosophy of military armament contracts, we have to find eternal truth of armament. Eternal truth of armament. What does that mean? It is not that we buy a car. It is not that we buy a bread. we buy something which is, and now we have a look to some military armament special. The law of obsolescence. What does that mean? Every armament is growing obsolete. Up to the first moment, beginning with the first moment, it's becoming obsolete. Look at the left picture. It's a German Tiger tank from World War II. It was known as one of the best tanks of the world, 1944. Today, it would be one of the worst tanks, obsolete. Look at, where's our friend of Ukraine? Look at the Russian tank, T-55, in Ukraine. He was blasted by a bazooka. You see this little ridiculous aid against Ukrainian drones. It was not effective. T-55, it was a medium tank in the 50s. Today, it is as obsolete as it could be only possible. Life cycle, F-16, F-16. Ukraine will get some from Western states. This fighter has has an age of over 40 years. And we have to look at the service life of many main battle systems. It is 30 to 50 years. I give you some examples more. Look at the B-52, a strategic bomber of US Air Force. It is 72 years in service, and it has countless upgrades. It's in service. The plan is to have it in service up to the 40s of this century. The old German MG machine gun 42, it's working 82 years, only 4 upgrades. The Leopard main battle tank, 45 years. And at last, the German personal carrier, armored personal carrier, Marder, even brought to Ukraine 50 years. Why do I boring you with these facts? I want to give you the impression and the knowledge that we have very long time in contractual view. Our contracts must be made for eternity. One short information: in Germany, we can contract up to 30 years in obligation law. That means we can have a 30 years contract, and this is necessary. The constant decreasing of combat value means we need to fight with contractual remedies against the obsolescence. So now, exception. Some of our armaments are become out of value. They become devaluated because of disruptive developments. For example, the Panzerfaust bazooka did make every steel armor tank, only steel armor tank, T-55, Tiger, obsolete because the steel armor did not resist to this technology. 1863. The elder ones of us might remember American Civil War. The steel warship Monitor from Confederate States made the end of all wooden navies. And at last, as a example, the propeller-driven combat aircrafts were obsolete with the rising of the jet propulsion. Here, there is a different contractual solution. You must have the right of exit. Let's now have a look at the core risks and the core goals of armament contracts. This is, these contracts must create the reliable availability of military equipment. This is the current resilience, as I mentioned in the beginning. Then it must be sustainable for future developments. It is a future resilience, and it must be to reasonable cost, good quality at the best price. These goals you have to achieve with hundreds, I repeat, with hundreds of contractual tools. And insofar, it's a little bit in my profession, contract logistics contract agreement is exactly that showing on goals what we have here. It's a long-term relation. And the ladies, please allow me one special word. We have a marriage here. We have no one-night stand, even in a sales agreement. So, now, the current resilience, now I come to special checks and special tools, what we have to build in our contracts. The service must be available at all times, and the armor must be absolutely guaranteed. So, and now, what do we have as a legal area? We have the contractual law system, civil law, the contractual law. And we have the public law. In Germany, we have the Bundesleistungsgesetz. That means the Federal Defense Service Law for war times. The state can call for equipment, for military services, for supply, and so on. I don't deal with that in my short lecture. Now we have a look at special contractual tools. You have to look for design of your contract. Comprehensive and in emergency running, emergency service. What does that mean? If there are problems, if there is a pandemic, if there is war, you have to serve as the contractual civil partner, as a contractual company of the army in any case. You cannot say, oh, it's war, we have force majeure, and we don't want to deliver. This must be excluded. And there must be instead a duty to serve in any case. Duty to serve in any case. We have, I come to that point I mentioned yet, we have a wide range of situations we call normally force majeure situations. In force majeure situation, you are free from service. You don't have to perform. This is not possible here. And I think Ukrainian army will have realized those clauses in contracts with, for example, drone producers. You have to exclude force majeure as far as possible. Then, of course, for leasing sourcing contracts, you have to exclude liens, rights of retention. Even in sales agreements, you have to exclude right of retention in view of spare parts, in view of supply service, of performance to deliver ammunition and so on. Sorry, if there are disputes about payment, you are missing 1,000 euros, this is not relevant. These rights, which are very sensible in normal contractual relations, in normal peace times, this is not possible for military equipment. But it's a law. And what do? You exclude it. It's not mandatory law. In no European law system, it's mandatory or fully mandatory. So, advanced performance is a very important point. A call-off system for execution contracts. What does that mean, call-off? Who knows about what I speak? Call-off is coming from automotive industry, and you have a framework agreement for example, to deliver, and I now change to military supply. You have to deliver, Professor, 100,000 grenades, 155 millimeter for our artillery. So, and now I give you the call off, please, 10,000 now. You don't have it, but you have to produce it. You have signed the contract that I can give you a call off. Call off means in contractual systematic, the contract, the execution contract, is existing in the moment you give the call off to your supplier. He cannot say no, because he had offered you by a standing offer to deliver after your call off. This is a very important system, because as we all know, in the case of normal contractual world, I give you, Ms. Sombori, an offer to whatever. And what will you do if I offer you something? You will, of course, say no. And that is not possible in our military supply world. Exclusion of extraordinary rights of termination. You didn't pay 100,000 euros, so I'm in the position to terminate our supply contract. Bye. Not possible. You must exclude it as far as possible. But why should our suppliers, why should our contractual civil partners, the companies, why should they accept those clauses, which we are shrinking the volume of the possible contractual clauses? We are minimizing their contractual positions. Of course, we pay for that. They do this not even with patriotic reasons. They want to earn money. And if you give them the golden handshake, you can say, accept it and take the money. I created some contracts for civil military cooperation in Germany. For example, Bundeswehrfuhrpark. This is the contract for the leasing of the White Fleet, the not fighting fleet of German army. We had call options there. If something happens, we get your company, but you pay you goldenly. You get a golden handshake, so you have no real damage. You get very much money. But we have the country, and we have the company, and we have the supply. Let me now change to future resilience. I think I'm quite in fine time. Future resilience. Clausewitz said everything in military development and in war is in the fog of the future. We don't know what happens. And as I can resume, we have the known situations, but perhaps not yet taken in our contract. I give an example. The danger of drones, especially for tanks, for tank armor, for armored infantry vessels, arose in the 2010 to 2020. But it came, it was relevant at the latest in 2020 in the Armenian-Azerbaijan war, where Armenia lost because they had no drone armament and counter-drone armament. But it became virulent, really virulent, in the first drone war, of the first real drone war of history, Ukraine-Russia. As I had some lectures about drone development in German Reservist Association, I know Ukraine wants to build 100,000 drones in this year. And they have units created, drone battalion, drone brigades, as the core point, as the main, at the main front areas, to be the main force, and to force the fighting infantry. The unknown, newly emerging situations, this is the second point of resilience. Please remember the beginning of my lecture. Who knows the film Back to the Future? We all, of course, of course. In 2027, please remember, 2027, a new hypervelocity ammunition is invented that requires some new armor to main battle tanks. Do we know that? What about laser? What about laser? This laser does not is not dangerous to a main battle tank. Wrong. It is dangerous because it can make soldiers blind. A future scenario? I don't know. But please remember to 2027. What can happen? What about the contractual solution for future dangers, for future situations? Of course, there is a solution, but you have to go the way to find this solution. It is the unilateral contractual adjustment right. And in German law, in German civil code, I must say this is very good solved. We have in these paragraphs of German BGB, Bürgerliches Gesetzbuch, civil law, we have two possibilities to adapt a concluded contract. Mr. Mbori, I now need this solution, this armament, this changed armament solution from you to protect our tanks against drones. Of course, this is a little bit complicated because you cannot force them to produce or to have somewhat what is not existing. That is then to be solved by a development clause. You have to try it, and always you get the money for that. But if you have it, if, for example, Rheinmetall, a German producer which is acting in Hungary too, with a corporation, I think personal armored carriers are produced here, the Puma, I think. These, if you have somewhat, then it's possible to decide unilaterally by the army, I will get it, and I will pay for that. Why should you say no? The golden handshake is always the solution for the acceptance of the deliverer, of the producer. In logistics, since 20 years, I create and I bring in the draft the formulation, the typical and reasonable scope of duties of such a contract. Now let's move to special clauses so that we put a little bit meat to the theoretical bones of contractual drafting. For long-term spare part supply service contracts, we have, for example, extensive as I mentioned yet, extensive exclusion of terminal rights and all lessors' rights to terminate the service. You have the right even to call the shares of the army, of the company, in case of necessity. Let's have a last look to cost effectiveness. Why a last look? Isn't it very important that we don't waste money? Yes, of course. But please ask President, I think his name is Zelensky or a little bit similar. Money does not has the main role in war. We need ammunition, we need tanks, we need F-16, we need everything, but money, of course, we don't want to waste money, but it's not so important. But if we conclude, and now we have a look at all European countries. We are all in peace, and no one is in war with Russia. But some of us give a little bit more to Ukraine than others. I don't mention any countries. We have best practice clauses for minimizing cost, but obeying and observing the right of the producer, of course, to win money. Let's have a look. For example, in view of leasing contract, we can, for example, have the fee rates into individual components. We have a GMP as price system. It's the GMP is it's a German word. Guaranteed maximum price. That's the translation. Guaranteed maximum price. You get for your special armor device, you get 100,000 euros per piece. This is a good price, but please produce it for that, not more. It's your risk. But if you spare money in producing, it's your gain. That is a profit sharing. If I produce for less money, I will get profit, more profit. So combination with budget cap and savings, so gain sharing, that is you look at a price and then you reduce the price, but not you reduce the price when the costs are decreasing, but this shared, this spared money, this you share with 50%, 60%, whatever. So the producer gets money for cost he did not have. This is a very benefit, a very good benefit for them, and to think about how to spare cost. So, and that was my short introduction to the world of contracts for military armament, for sourcing armament and supply. Thank you, but I want to give you at last a quote of Field Marshal Liman von Sanders. He was German commander-in-chief in Turkey in First World War. He who has doubts everywhere will never achieve action. And for those who speak a little bit German, the translation is really a poem. Wer überall Bedenken hat, gelangt auf keinem Weg zur Tat. Thank you.